I don't care.
Q snatch.
Keep your sludge you're troweling out.
Face little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
My goodness, what a week it has been. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us, both on the air and in our chat room. Hi, guys. Hello, everywhere. Welcome to Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. That's Johnny Million. Johnny, I do my best to try and overwhelm you at the last minute, right before the show starts, with as much news as possible.
I see links.
Yes, amongst that, I sent you yesterday on my live stream at infotainmentwars.com. I did what I call Master Text Theater, where we read the Mark Meadows, Mike Lee, and Chip Roy texts. And I feel like we need to start. There's obviously a lot of Ukraine news. There's obviously a lot of aspects of the Russian invasion of Ukraine that are affecting geopolitical matters and health, safety, environment. There's a lot of costs to this battle that Russia started apropos of nothing, that Putin started just because he's got a chip on his tiny, teensy little shoulder. And
Vickery.
Yeah. And it is having an enormous impact on a lot of the world. Hal Vickery, thank you for the super chat. I burned through my allowance the last few weeks. I appreciate that. We appreciate the support always. Bless you. And in looking at these, you've seen these texts. I just sent them to you if you haven't taken a gander. Yeah. And I read them on the show yesterday, and there are a couple of ones that stand out. Now, I have been talking for many months about the idiocy.
Do we have these because they were subpoenaed?
They were handed over.
Just to CNN?
No, to the January 6th committee, and then they released them.
It is.
Some redacted aspects of them, I'm guessing. Some of Mark Meadows' responses have not been. But these guys, see, they're part of the Senate, so they can't talk to the administration and have that hidden from public view because they don't have executive privilege. They are part of the advise and consent role, and so you can't hide that advice and consent in your duties unless there's a national security element, to which there is absolutely none, except for the inversion of this, wherein their participation damaged or put in danger our national security. My favorite Mike Lee text, besides him trying to get Sidney Powell in to see the president, and then a few days later going, whatever you do, don't talk to Sidney Powell, she's a lunatic. But I'm paraphrasing. This is a direct quote. Please give me something to work with. I just need to know what I should be saying. 2 days later. Please tell me what I should be saying. That if anything explains Mike Lee as a senator to his constituents in Utah, better than that, I don't know what it is. Chip Roy put together a big letter of here's what you need to be doing to the president, and had it sent in, and because he couldn't reach him, so he basically texted the entire contents of an email letter from a bunch of people to Mark Meadows to forward, print out and forward to Trump, because Trump wasn't even taking phone calls from his kids. I mean, in all fairness, maybe he would have, but they didn't have the third burner phone's number, and you know how that is. Okay, so
I'm worried about the Powell press conference. This is just amazing.
Days after Mike Lee recommends Sidney Powell, you can listen to what she's saying. This is great. The next, a few days later, he's like, I'm really worried about this Sidney Powell press conference. This is not good. She needs to stop this unless she can prove it, right? Well, dummy, it was your idea for her to talk to the president and become part of the team. It was in between that time that she was actually forwarded to the team. Message to future generations. Never, ever, ever, ever take the advice of Mike Lee, because he will take it back after it started to go south. Chip Roy, on the other hand, was doing a lot of kind of borderline Steve Bannon, tip of the spear, armor-piercing shell. We got to be the forward, the front. We got to bring it to the front, our messaging, blah, blah, blah. Kind of semi-militaristic language that he always uses. I think I think my favorite exchange is only folks here are Cletus folks and a handful of you get folks down hall, which I don't know what that means.
What?
And Cleta
You
is a
get
woman.
folks down hall?
You get folks down hall. Cleta is a reference to Cleta Mitchell, a pro-Trump lawyer who was part of the effort to overturn the 2020 election.
Or maybe town hall.
You get folks town hall. A handful of you get folks down hall. Nope. You get folks down hall. I don't know. Anyways, gibberish. The response from Mark Meadows was unbelievable, pathetic. And Chip Roy responded back to him, it's so infuriating. Again, a moment of joy. Take a breath, folks. Enjoy the beauty of the fact that this coup, this insurrection, this it was basically contrived, carried out, and directed by the biggest idiots on the planet. Thank God.
Yeah.
But he was saying things around November 9th. Hey, brother, we need substance or people are gonna break. Stuff like that. We need a controlled message ASAP. That kind of stuff. Like, he was pushing this whole thing. And then his final text on January 6th, this is a crap show. Fix this now. And then we are ... It's like Mark Meadows lost one of the space colonies. It's like they were being attacked by Klingons. And he's like, this is going terribly. Fix this. Alpha Base, we're losing you. Alpha Base. They're gone, sir. That's... We are. I mean, it's so poetic in its own way. It's like an idiot haiku of some sort.
A super chat screaming in here, Al.
Excellent. What's that?
I can't pronounce the 10 Canadian dollars from RDY4THDL. Ridifalol.
Okay.
So 10 Canadian from Ridifalol.
Okay.
Daphne says I'm eye candy and is ready to fight anybody who says otherwise.
Excellent.
Michael Anderson gave 666. He's following General Howe's orders.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Robert Reynolds.
Hal Vickery, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, Hal Vickery. Robert Reynolds gave a super chat to say, if you think I'm just eye candy, you should hear John play guitar.
That's true. Yes. Did you lose us for a second, Chicago? Was there audio?
You got really quiet.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh.
Okay. Beg your pardon?
Sounds
I'm
weird
fine
then.
now. It was a weird kerfuffle in audio. Very odd.
And Kathy just sent a
good.
very cute gif.
Aw.
And money.
I'm still on the air.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're still in the air.
Yeah, I think that was an internet kerfuffle. That would be my guess. So in the course of this all started bad for the prospects of overturning the election, and it has gotten worse. Now, the second piece of news I sent you is Johnny Million. Take a look at this. I'm going to reveal it to the chat when we come back because it's kind of beautiful. There's a subtle beauty to this story. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Park Radio program, MAGA, worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The House Parks radio program, MAGA worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I don't think this is going to disappoint. I'm very excited about the whole thing. This is a little piece of information that just came across the wires. It's kind of beautiful. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the great wide hope of the Republican Party, who is their number one fundraiser, people. She is the person raising the most money. Her campaign committee has reported their first fundraising loss ever. Now, there's a lot of reasons
And I was
why.
asking how during the break, how do you lose money raising funds?
Oh, you'll see. Okay, so the campaign committee for Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene reported on Friday its first net loss since she was elected, posting a $314,000 deficit over the first 3 months of 2022, while additional revising previous contribution totals down by more than $100,000. So they're in the hole $400K going into the midterms. Oh, yeah. About a half of that loss is represented in fees to Donald Trump's top Jan 6 attorney and security detail that protected Kyle Rittenhouse during his trial last year.
What?
Yep. Yeah. Half of it went to money to...
Rittenhouse's lawyers?
Yes. Well, no, that was for a security detail. The overlap of it is... Okay, so while Greene has already traded steep fees for slightly higher returns, she's always managed to come out on top until now. Last quarter, she sprung a hole in the bucket as her campaign committee, Green for Congress, which is so ironically named, spent about $1.38 million while taking in only $1 million in 1.06. Fundraising costs alone wiped out 3/4 of those receipts. Green, one of the top fundraisers in the House, has deployed expensive digital fundraising operations in the past, and reports have dinged her for it, pointing out that the fees give the lie to an inflated small dollar contribution stream. Last quarter, however, MAGA World's leading lady bet big on direct mail, sinking more than $400,000 into printing, postage, and associated expenses. When that money was added to consulting, list rental, and digital fees, Green for Congress spent more than $735,000 on fundraising efforts. To make matters worse, remember, she's in a dinky little, Georgia district. Bless their hearts. But it's not like she's got a lot of ground to cover.
She's not a senator.
It would cost her about $150K to drive to everyone personally and hand them a flyer and hand them a yard sign in her district. To make matters worse, the same day the campaign filed its new report, it also filed 3 amended versions of previous reports from last year, admitting that the committee had overstated contributions by more than $100,000. The campaign currently holds about $3 million in cash on hand, which represents a net gain of $900,000 over the last 12 months, which is why they're spending the money willy-nilly. They don't care. Green also spent big elsewhere this year, most specifically for personal security, racking up about $140,000 in expenses. Almost all of that went in 3 monthly payments to a Knoxville-based executive protection company called Kjor Group, which also handled security for Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse during his trial last year. So, that's a beautiful piece of news. On top of that, North Carolina has dropped Mark Meadows from their voter rolls because he committed fraud in the election. The state is investigating whether Mark Meadows cast a legal vote in 2020 after reports questioned if he lived at the address listed on his voter registration, which is like either he lives like the Unabomber or this is hooey. Mark Meadows, registered to vote at a mobile home in North Carolina 6 weeks before the 2020 election. Former chief of staff to the Trump White House has been removed from the voter rolls in North Carolina as officials investigate whether he fraudulently registered to vote and cast a ballot in the state during the 2020 presidential election, according to a local election official. Now, I can hear, can you hear it, Johnny? I can hear if he was black, he'd be in jail for 5 years. Maybe it's just inside my own head that thought is bouncing around like crazy.
He absolutely would.
Absolutely
the only
would.
voter fraud happens on that side of the aisle.
Only time. Every time they look for voter fraud, which is why I'm for it, please, Republicans, continue your weird attack on voting everywhere by doing recounts and audits, and look for panda semen in all the pre-printed ballots from China or whatever the heck you're looking for. Please keep looking.
Accidentally turning up that the only double voters happen to be voting red.
Right, exactly. Happen to be Trump votes. It's kind of like Putin knows exactly where all the neo-Nazis are in Ukraine because he dropped them there and paid for them to attack their fellow Ukrainians for years as a pretext for his attacking. It's curious that he knows all their addresses. The Ukrainians don't know where they live, but Putin's like, no, his name is Yehirov, and he's a swell guy, great fisherman. Anyways, on top of that, Trump's always like, there was fraud here and in this neighborhood and here. How do you know? Still got the receipt, to paraphrase the next bit. Mr. Meadows, who helped amplify former Donald Trump's false claims of voter fraud, was administratively removed from the poll book by the Macon County Board of Elections on Monday after documentation indicated he lived in Virginia and last voted in the 2021 election there. Patrick Gannon, a spokesman for the North Carolina Board of Elections, said in a statement, the question is, if he voted in the 2021 election, the runoff, or whatever it was, the governor's race. He voted for, against McAuliffe and whatever. So he voted in that one. Did he vote there too? That's the question. That's the double voting fraud. And the answer is more than likely, yeah, he did, because he's a creep. All right. Now, the Republicans
He's a creep.
continue to have, he's a creep. He's and thank God he's a moron, because if he wasn't a moron, we might, be living under some sort of weird Putin-esque Trump regime right now. And we aren't, because they're all dum-dums. All right. So that.
Hey, thank you, Billy Beaver.
Thank you. Was that a?
It's William Beaver, but I call him Billy Beaver.
I understand.
And Bob Brentwood chimed in with a super chat a little bit earlier too. Bob from New Jersey loves us.
That's lovely, and I'm curious if Billy knows Winona. Thank you, William. Team Beaver. He's on Team Beaver. I would hope so. And he wishes a happy, hoppy Easter weekend from the Great White North. So the other piece of news in the Republican dream of a future for the GOP is falling apart is the great, I guess the everything's bigger in Texas, including the screw ups. Greg Abbott plan Operation Lone Star. Man's got to know his limitations. Greg Abbott has been doing this Operation Lone Star where they've been, they're stopping everything at the border. They got
stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk. They're stopping frisking every Mexican that comes across the border in a truck with a big sign on it and a that's full of food and stuff. And then everybody wonders why prices go up. There's no food on the shelves, and everybody it's funny because across the country, Trump is trying this "there's no food on the shelves" thing, and it really is landing like a lead balloon. It's not, people are like, no. I mean, prices are up because of transportation costs. We get that, but there's not empty shelves everywhere. Like certain brands of cat food can't get rendered horse meat from Texas randomly, so they can't be
honestly,
on the shelves. But
my biggest grocery store issue is cat food and cat food only.
Yeah, well, that's because it comes from the FDA or the USDA quality meats that you eat and people consume in the United States pass through an inspection process and all that kind of stuff, and they have to go through this big chain of command. Whereas the rendered bits that are left over that are ultimately turned into, feedstock or that are turned into pet food don't have to be. Well, those trucks go a different way. The USDA trucks are fast-tracked effectively so people can be fed. And the remnant stuff, depending on where you're buying it, they get it from all over. They don't just get it from Mexico. They get it from South America. They get it from China. They get it from Vietnam or whatever. You just get all these from slaughterhouses all over the world. You get these rendered bits, and you buy them in giant bulk, and they put them in these freezer containers, and then they ship them across, and it's totally disgusting. Imagine in a nightmare in one of your worst nightmares, where you walk up to a giant, like storage cube, one of these, mobile truck back ends that they, the shipping containers, and you throw the latch up and you open it, and like the blood in the elevator in The Shining, chips of meat about the size of your thumb just ooze out all over you. That's what these things are like. It's totally disgusting. And that's harder to get because it's lower priority. Low-end rendered meat for pet food is not going to be the top priority. If you're going to pay $19,000 for a shipping container, it's going to be stuff that's going to make you more of a profit than these. You'll get that elsewhere, right? Plus, there's a worker shortage. There's a remnant shortage, like that, worldwide. So, and this doesn't help because Greg Abbott is definitely stopping trucks full of cat food and dog food at the border. There's no question. That's definitely part of this. So Greg Abbott has this thing. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to explain to you how Operation Lone Star sounds macho, but ain't. Yeah. You got to be durable. Most ain't. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Most ain't.
Wow.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more. Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Booyah!
Very good. See, that's macho. That's tough. That's gutsy.
Booyah.
It's got chutzpah and also other things. Not so much for Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star, which again, guys, just stop with the. It's not Desert Storm. Simmer. You're inspecting trucks. Yes, should we be concerned about fentanyl crossing the border? Yeah, but most of it comes in through the ports, dummy. So the idea that it's coming across our southern border, I love how they're like, it keeps most of the fentanyl that enters the country comes in across our southern border in ports. And you're like, all right. If you include the word ports in southern border and ports, so Florida, for God's sake, Gulf ports, Louisiana, no kidding. We know this. So, all right. So on Friday, at a joint meeting in West Laco with Tamaulipas, Governor Francisco Javier Garcia Cabeza de Vaca, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Steve McCraw made an admission. The controversial enhanced truck inspections by Republican Governor Greg Abbott.
Enhanced. It's like enhanced interrogation.
Exactly, yeah. They're doing an extended pat down. Moon River. I need that one, actually. This is the enhanced lockdowns
Moon River
have not amounted, have fielded no actual cases of human trafficking or drug trafficking, the supposed basis for the inspections in the first place. Abbott, however, was quick to claim that it was no surprise this had happened because the drug cartels knew the inspections were coming and stopped using commercial vehicles ahead of the policy going forward. I'm sorry, are they under the impression that they were using commercial trucks before and nobody was bothering to rando check and we wouldn't have noticed if any of these commercial companies, meat packing companies, like electronics companies, anything that's getting assembled, it's another truck of avocados, Gary, right? Don't pull it over, whatever you do. Why? I just have a good feeling about this one. Let this one go, Pierre. He has spirit. DPS Director Steve McCraw says no human trafficking or drug trafficking has been detected as a result of the extra inspections on commercial vehicles ordered by Greg Abbott last week, but he says it was no surprise, right? This comes as Abbott has come under heavy criticism for the inspections, which have snared? I think they mean snarled. Snarled traffic along the roads of entry into the United States and resulted in a protest blockade of Mexican truck drivers. Where's all the freedom trucker talk about these guys? These guys aren't committing any crimes. They are delivering food and consumer goods to the United States.
I think they need to get in a convoy and just roll to Washington.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but you do know that if a bunch of Mexican truckers all drove up to Washington D.C. and encircled the Beltway, there'd be like nonstop on Fox, just like, I do it. It's Taco Tuesday every day. Right. That would be the end of it as we know it. Beto O'Rourke slammed Abbott as an economic arsonist, and even GOP State Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller slammed the policy as bad for business. That's your kind of week in Republican politics. Mark Meadows' texts come out with him and Chip Roy and Mike Lee, proving that Mike Lee is the single dumbest member of the Senate. And Chip Roy, he's got a line he just won't cross. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, first loss heading into the election year. Again, because she's doubling down on stuff she shouldn't have to do if she's as popular in her district as she allegedly is with Republicans nationwide. I have no doubt that there are enough people that want to elect Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republicans nationwide, to cover 100% of her district. The problem is they don't get to vote there unless Mark Meadows wants to change the law. They got to just watch. They can donate to her, and boy, are they. But they can't vote, and it doesn't seem to be helping that much. She's still having to spend money hand over fist. Then, of course, Mark Meadows has been dropped from the North Carolina voter rolls. We will see if he actually pays a price for it. I don't know. Can we not throw this moron in jail just for this? Like, this is clear cut. It looks like he voted.
Fail.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, Greg Abbott's Operation Lodestar, as Mike Pence would call it, which is a load, believe me, is basically the best parts of the Republicans' week, and that doesn't include the ones that are still desperately trying to find a way to back Putin, who has also had, I don't know if you know this, Johnny Million, a terrible week.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, first of all, they lost a rather important ship, the Moskva, which is not the same one that Klaus Meine followed in the Scorpion songs. When I followed the Moskva down to Gorky Park, right? That's the river he's talking about, not this ship. He did not. I don't want people calling up Klaus Meine of the Scorpions and telling him, why are you following that boat around?
All right, quick interruption, Hal.
Yes.
Do you remember when we saw Monsters of Rock in 1988, 89?
Yes, I do. Yes.
And we went there, and like Van Halen was giant, and they were headlining this whole thing, Monsters of Rock. And the Scorpions came on before them and left the place in ruins.
Yes.
Van Halen bored everybody after the Scorpions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Scorps were so good.
It had sort of, I don't know, what would I call it? German precision. It was
the German precision, a little bit of cocaine.
Yeah,
boom.
Right. Boing.
Perfect.
What more could you want? Right. And then the opposite when it comes to Van Halen, which is German precision and far too much cocaine. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were on the OU812 tour, so they were already just kind of phoning it in.
Right. So, yes, and agreed. Lovely show, multiple T-shirts, good times.
Yeah.
But that was, of course, Winds of Change is the song that's now stuck in your head.
Oh, yeah. Starts with the whistling.
It does. Do it. You can't do it and smile, can you?
I think I just need to get closer to the mic.
That doesn't help at all.
No?
It just sounds
feels
like
good.
No, I know it does. I don't know. It feels great, actually.
Why does this feel so good, Hal?
I don't know. It sounds like a spooky wind, which is, I think, one of my favorite. That's my favorite Christopher Guest horror film. So it's so random. All right. So this week, the story about the sinking of the Moskva is, I think, classic Russia. Sums up the entire thing, which is, it starts with, we are not shelling civilian areas from the sea. To which point we find out not only are they shelling, of course, shelling civilian areas from the sea, they are doing it with their primary Black Sea battleship, the flagship Moskva. They moved it in super close so that they could get deeper inland and shell apartment buildings and strafe hit places like that.
What the hell?
Well, Putin the hell. Putin is hell. And over the, while it's sitting there, the Ukrainians, there's suddenly a fire breaks out on that you could see from space, like from the aerial command. You could see that the boat is on fire. and the Ukrainians go, we hit it. We hit it with 2 Neptune rockets. And the Neptune rockets are Ukrainian missiles. These are not stuff we've gotten from NATO. Now, there's stuff they've gotten, technology they've gotten from us earlier and from the Brits, and they've trained with us and all that kind of stuff. But they did this themselves. This is all Ukraine all the time.
People in the chat are saying there are no lifeboats and everybody just had to jump in the water.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a second. So
Sorry,
no. It's awful. This is awful for even the people on the boat who I have little sympathy for, but some. All right, here we go. So and Philip Bittner is going to be joining us right after this break. He'll, after we take the next break, he's going to be joining us in here. But the ship has a fire on it. The Russians say they didn't hit us. That's a lie. A fire broke out and set munitions on fire, and rockets internal to it exploded inside it, damaging the hull from the inside out. Which is, you would arguably say, I would just say I was hit, because this is worse.
That's like Leslie Nielsen in front of the fireworks factory going, nothing to see here.
It's like if Drago walked out into the ring with Rocky and just started punching himself in the face, yelling, I must break you. It's amazingly, it's shamefully dumb, because it's not just, a little fire broke out. They thought they could do that. The problem they had is that they knew it was catastrophic, the damage. So they started to tow it back to get it out of there, with some of the crew left on board. A bunch of people just jumped for it, swam to other boats, because there are no lifeboats. That's debatable. That seems to be. So they beg your pardon. I'm sorry. I was like, everybody's saying this. Take Abbott off your screen. I forgot I'm in preview mode.
So while you're doing a quick adjustment there was a super chat asking if Marjorie Taylor Greene's parents got rich building government housing.
Yes, indeed. Also her cousins, who are the same people. I'm kidding. I'm from Kentucky. I can make that joke. We don't know if it was her parents or her cousins. Perhaps they're the same people. Okay. All right. So then, and we got to take a break, but then they tow the boat back, and while they're towing it, it sinks, and they blame choppy seas. The choppy seas sunk the boat that was fine, except for a little fire on the deck. And then, remember, it was their fault. They fire retaliatory strikes at Ukraine for, I guess, their own soldiers screwing up. So they blame their own soldiers. Then the boat sinks with a bunch of their soldiers on it.
So and do they retaliate by punching their soldiers?
Yes, apparently. But it's very indicative of how, yes, there's a propaganda war going on both sides, because you're trying to demoralize the other side. That's always happened, right? In war. That's what a head staked on the edge of the village is. Early Cro-Magnon propaganda. See this guy who used to run your forces that came up that hill? That's his head. That's what's coming for you. That's propaganda. They propped his Ganda up on these. Got a good Ganda of the entire area now that he's propped on a stick. Right. That's where the word comes from. I'm kidding. But when this storyline is indicative of how well it's going for the Russians in terms of their propaganda story, because they have no good story to tell. It's garbage. They are even, and there's an argument that they attacked that inland. Well, we'll talk about that when we get back. Because Philip's going to join us, I believe. I think he's in in the waiting room. There he is. And we'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.